Now, breaking developments shaking the nation. Political battles heating up, economic tensions rising, and new revelations that could change everything that we thought we knew. And this is your deep dive into the stories behind the headlines. Let's uncover what's really happening right now. First, we go to the SNAP crisis. The U.S. government shutdown continues, and it has caused major problems with the SNAP benefits for about 42 million Americans. But federal judges this week ordered the USDA to use contingency funds to keep the payments moving. The USDA now plans to make partial payments for November, far less than normal, while states scramble to fill the gap. In my opinion, this has caused a lot of stress on families that don't deserve it, and not enough stress on families that do. Next, we go to the government shutdown. The shutdown has now entered the 38th day, making it the longest in U.S. history. Senate Republicans plan a critical vote tomorrow on a new funding proposal, hoping to pull in moderate Democrats, but so far the stalemate remains. Meanwhile, the FAA has ordered a 4% reduction in flights at 40 major U.S. airports starting today, with deeper cuts expected next week. In my opinion, we got too many flipping idiots in Washington. And next we go to the UPS cargo plane crash. The investigation into the crash near Louisville, Kentucky has revealed that the plane's left engine detached during takeoff, and a major fire broke out on the left wing. Authorities have recovered the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder and are combing through the recent maintenance records, including a 6-week stop in San Antonio. The death toll has now risen to at least 13, with 9 people still missing. Stay tuned as investigators piece together exactly what went wrong. And in my opinion, an airplane crash is one of the worst ways to go. Get right with God now before it's too late. Next is New York state politics. Elise Stefanik officially launched her campaign for governor of New York, targeting her opponent Kathy Hochul, with a focus on high taxes, soaring rents, and rising energy costs. This bold move sets the stage for a high-stakes 2026 governor's race and could reshape the Republican strategy in a heavily Democratic state. The flight delay crisis continues. Major travel disruptions. The FAA has mandated a phased reduction of up to 10% of flights at 40 of the busiest U.S. airports in America. These cuts are tied to staffing shortages, especially among air traffic controllers, caused by the federal government shutdown. Passengers are facing long waits, more cancellations, and growing uncertainty as the aviation system braces for further reductions. In my opinion, it's a sad day for travel, but we still have a lot to be thankful for. Maybe stay home this Thanksgiving, or drive to Grandma's house. Next, the latest on Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi, the first woman to serve as Speaker of the House, announced that she will not seek re-election in 2026, ending a nearly 40-year congressional career. Her departure opens one of the country's most prominent Democratic seats in San Francisco and signals a major leadership moment for the party ahead of the 2026 midterms. In my opinion, she should have retired 100 years ago. Next, the latest on Zohan Mandani. Mandani is now facing intense scrutiny over his decision to keep New York Commissioner Jessica Tisch, just as his progressive mayoral agenda takes center stage. Civil rights groups warn that the move complicates his promise to overhaul the city's surveillance systems. Meanwhile, a coalition of Indian American and Hindu organizations have publicly condemned remarks that they say are Hindu-phobic, amplifying the cultural and identity politics swirling around this historic win. In my opinion, New York City has gone down the tubes, and it may never be recovered. Next is the latest news about Donald Trump's announcement about weight loss drugs. He just unveiled a major deal with Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk to slash cost of GLP-1 weight loss drugs, dropping cash prices to as low as $149 to $350 a month, and capping Medicare copay to $50 a month. Coverage will expand to more patients in obesity under Medicare and Medicaid. In my opinion, we can all lose a little weight, but let's wait until after Thanksgiving. Next is the latest on Donald Trump's tariffs. During oral arguments this week, the Supreme Court signaled strong doubt about Trump's use of the 1977 International Economic Powers Act to impose sweeping import duties, raising questions about whether he overreached executive power. If the court rules against him, he may have to refund up to $90 billion. The ruling could reshape U.S. trade policy and limit the president's tariff authority going forward. In my opinion, we should let Trump use the tariffs to negotiate on our behalf. Next comes The story of the sandwich man. Sean Charles Dunn, a former DOJ staffer who threw a sandwich at a federal Customs and Border Protection agent during a protest in Washington, D.C. He was acquitted of misdemeanor assault charges by a jury. The case had originally been pursued as a felony, but prosecutors later downgraded the charges after a grand jury refused to indict. Dunn's lawyer argued that the act was protected political expression, while prosecutors said it still crossed the line. The not guilty verdict is seen as a setback for federal enforcement efforts tied to protests. In my opinion, there should be consequences for throwing sandwiches at people, regardless. Next is the latest news on the teacher who was shot and awarded $10 million. A Virginia jury awarded former first-grade teacher Abby Zwerner $10 million after she was shot by a 6-year-old student in January of 2023. The verdict held her former assistant principal at Rich Neck Elementary School responsible for ignoring multiple warnings that the child had a pew-pew on campus. This ruling is drawing attention to school safety and administrator accountability nationwide. In my opinion, this is an incredible story. I'm seriously shocked that a 6-year-old could get a hold of a pew-pew and use it on his teacher. Was the teacher giving out too much homework? Next is the latest development on Donald Trump's passport policy. The Supreme Court of the United States has permitted the Trump administration policy to enforce passport markers based on biological sex at birth, temporarily overturning lower court relief that allowed transgender and non-binary individuals to choose markers aligning with their gender identity. Critics say this move could endanger freedom of travel and equal protection for trans Americans. The legal battle continues. In my opinion, there are only two genders. This may help our society turn in the right direction. Next, the newest development in the gubernatorial races. Democrats scored major wins in the 2025 off-year election, taking both governorship of Virginia and New Jersey. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger defeated the Republican to become the state's first female governor. In New Jersey, Mickey Sherrill won decisively against Trump-aligned GOP challenger. These results give Democrats early momentum heading into 2026. In my opinion, it was a sad day yesterday, but I wasn't surprised by the level of stupidity. Next, California's Prop 50. California voters approved Proposition 50, allowing the state legislature to redraw U.S. House districts for the 2026 elections, potentially helping Democrats gain up to 5 seats. But immediately after its passage, Republicans filed a federal lawsuit, claiming the maps were racially biased. The battle now heads into the courts and could shape who controls Congress in 2026. In my opinion, the Democrats are pretty sharp and ambitious. They seem to be getting the upper hand in the battle. Next, ICE in Chicago, the latest development at the U.S. Immigration and Customs Facility in Chicago. A federal judge in Chicago has ordered the Broadview Immigration Facility to immediately improve conditions, requiring clean toilets, regular bed mats, private lawyer calls, and full tracking of detainees, after finding the detention environment unnecessarily cruel. The order puts the spotlight on how the facility is being used and raises questions about whether the enforcement model is sustainable under mounting legal pressure. In my opinion, it's good that we have eyes investigating government facilities, but we don't need to provide 5-star treatment. And for today's breaking stories and commentary, we go to the infamous, wonderful, one-of-a-kind Paul.
Oh, yeah. Hey, good morning. Basically, believe it or not, how time flies when you're having fun. This is the 38th day we've had the government shutdown. And they're supposedly going to vote again today on it, the 15th time they voted. Now, some people are predicting that it'll end the 16th or the 18th of November, close to Thanksgiving. That would be nice, just to pull something out of our hat here. But it all has to do why supposedly the Democrats are shutting down is because they want some amendments done in the Obamacare, which has been very costly to most Americans anyway. So that's their ruse, their excuse they're using to use it as a tool. But the ultimate, the American people are the ultimate losers here. Not even because you're on the EBT or the SNAP benefits, it's how it affects those people who depend on people who use those benefits. The stores, for instance, they've lost all that business. The people themselves, of course, some people are legitimately need these benefits because they can't work for either mental, physical, age-related causes that will restrict them from working again, and they just are unable to find work. I think a lot of them have their heart in the right place and they want to work. Some people just can't, especially when you get to be an older senior citizen. You start losing some of your facilities, mental, physical, emotional, and then there's people who just are welfare moms, shall we say. Could be any color, doesn't matter. You just want to just make your living off that. But for instance, right now, the reality of it is that it's a tough economy out there. Just in November, we've had 1 million layoffs, over a million. October, we had 153,000. So it's really, really staggered. It's gone up. It's a 22-year high since the pandemic. And the cause is a lot of companies have to reorganize themselves. You have cost cutting tech. Cost cutting and tech are mainly, and of course the government itself and AI are all causing this unholy combination that is causing people to lose their jobs and put a lot of weight on the food banks of all things. So the food bank business has doubled and tripled this year alone. So that puts a tremendous strain on the food banks just to get food. So people lost their EBT cards, or their use of them, the SNAP benefits. They go down to the food banks and they're surprised when there's a two-hour wait. When they get there, there's not much left. I mean, I don't think that these food banks are prepared to deal with this situation because their sources to access the food to distribute to the people are drying up, and because a lot of people just don't have it, and people are cutting back. So there you go. I think the best thing to do for people who are trying to make it would be to reinvent yourself a little bit, maybe have multiple streams of income, because what's going to go on is you naturally will also stop spending, which will also hurt the economy. So a lot of Americans have 2 to 3 jobs just to survive, and a lot of people still aren't making it with 2 to 3 jobs. I've seen some stories that are just truly sad. And, everything is, as you know, and I know, everything's gone up dramatically. So heating, all the utility services have more or less doubled in many situations. So your expenses double, but your pay isn't doubling. Your pay is staying the same. So people were barely cutting it anyway. Then the food prices have more or less doubled since last year, maybe 50% up, depending on what you get. And that in itself is causing tremendous stress. What do you do? Do you heat your house or do you eat? It's a tough choice. And if you decide to eat, maybe you have to go to the food bank. So there's a lot of question marks. I don't think we've even seen we're not even a quarter of the way through this. But I think we have to get these benefits back. I think the Republicans and Democrats, especially the Democrats, have to come to some medium satisfying agreement where we can think of the American people first, not themselves. They got their money. They don't care. They do care, but they say they care, but do they really care? Also, another indicator is the holiday season coming up. You've got Target laying off 2,000 people, Amazon laying off a whole bunch of people. And here's the indicator. The cardboard box industry, of all things, is seeing its lowest production in many years. The companies aren't ordering the cardboard boxes because they anticipate a real off season. So, the cardboard box industry boomed in 2021. It's just gone to the bottom right now, basically. And just again, it's just everything's connected. Everything is really, really connected. So when the cardboard boxes are going down, you see that Amazon, Walmart, these other large retailers are anticipating a very, very poor season. So they've laid off. A matter of fact, Target is not even going to hire any seasonal employees this year. Nobody for Christmas. Last year they hired 100,000, believe it or not. This year, according to Target's numbers, they're not hiring anybody. So they're going to give their other workers a little overtime, and if they have to, they'll outsource a few jobs, I believe, but nothing near the 100,000 people they had last year working these seasonal jobs. And a lot of people really could use the seasonal work to make the money in this challenging, cold winter coming up. I think in California or the major cities, you have more access and more organized charities, I believe, to distribute the food that the public needs so bad. The senior citizens, the veterans, the people who have physical and mental injuries who count on it, but now again, they're not accustomed to these long lines. And it's kind of a real slap in the face to them, especially when our country can send so much money still to other little countries to support their wars or whatever they have going. I'm going to say it. I'll say it. Ukraine, Israel, and we just sent a bunch of money to Argentina to buy a bunch of beef, and we have beef here. In fact, this hurts our cattle ranchers. I don't understand what President Trump did on that one. It's just a mystery to me why he did that. He says, "Oh, Argentina needs the help." Well, gosh, we need help really bad. And I think that surely if we would think more of ourselves and not send all this money out to these other countries, we could pretty much be okay. We'd be fine. And maybe retrain people to start working again. If you can work. So I believe that also what I've got wind of is that some of these federal judges, or a particular federal judge, is trying to deny or delay completely Trump's tariff program, which was actually helping us. It's painful in the beginning, right? But in the long run, you're bringing back manufacturing to the United States. And, other countries hit us with tariffs and we're doing nothing back. Well, we had to do something back. One good thing about President Trump, there's many good things about him, is he's great at counterpunching. You punch him, he'll punch you right back. And that's what he was doing with those tariffs. And a lot of countries didn't like it. And so they kind of threw a little bit of a tantrum and they started raising tariffs on us. But Trump knows how to deal with it. He's a brilliant negotiator. He's done a lot of good things and a lot of things that are surprising to a lot of people. Hate him or love him, he's a difference maker. And we had the exact opposite last year. We had a president who was half asleep and half lost his mind and was being run in the background by who knows who. So Trump was a man making a difference. He inherited a huge problem from Biden and had to deal with it. The Bidens had set the course, and these problems had to run their course. And once they run their course, Trump could set a new course and get things going and change this country, hopefully in a good way. It's very challenging because everything's so expensive right now. And that's the main thing. We've got to stop spending overseas, bring the money back here, bring the industry back here, and then we can change things around again. I'm going to touch on a story that what it involves is of all things, mobile homes, right? Mobile homes. A lot of people buy a mobile home and they will pay the association fees or their dues and think life is great, life is good. But be careful, because if you buy a mobile home, you want to own the land, because if you don't own the land and you go there for the long run, you might be surprised. A lot of large companies are buying mobile home parks completely and doubling or tripling the rent. So if you own the land, that's different. But these companies, these raiders, I'll call them, are actually looking for the situation where the people buying the mobile home don't own the land. They're just renters. And when they find that, they purchase it and double or triple the price. This recently happened in Pennsylvania, and it just throws their lives in a total upheaval. And now they're older, retired. They have to scramble in the winter to make other arrangements. Kind of sad to say. So just a word of warning: if you do go that route, make sure you purchase the land and not rent it.